Hello again. My name is Anthony, and this is my review for The Mandalorian Season 3, Episode 2. Just like last time, I'm going to start with talking about my thoughts going into this episode, and then I will talk generally about my thoughts on the episode, and then I'll kind of go through and talk about the specifics. Also, I am currently on spring break, so I'm here at home. That's why there's a bit of a change of scenery here. And with all that down, let's go ahead and get into this. So in case you missed my last review, I'll kind of recap my thoughts here real quick. I have loved the show. I thought season 1 was great. I thought season 2 was even better. Despite those expectations, I was disappointed with last week's season premiere. I have to say, I was a bit nervous going into this episode because I didn't love last week's episode and because this was a director I had never heard of. I am happy to say I loved this episode of The Mandalorian. This felt like a true return to form for the show to me, something that I haven't really felt since those 2 episodes of the Book of Boba Fett, which again should have been the start of this season, but whatever. I do think it would have been really beneficial for Disney to release these 2 episodes together because I think it would have given us a better sense of the story of this season. I think last episode was a lot of good setup and this season was a lot of good payoff, but they're not as good separately as I feel like they would have been together. This was a thrilling episode to watch, and both from a story perspective and an action perspective. I really felt enthralled with the narrative here. It starts off pretty slow. The first 10 to 15 minutes, I was really not all that impressed with, but then it really starts to pick up from there. Grogu really gets to shine in this episode. We see a lot of development in his character here, which was really nice to see. Also, we're reminded that Din is not flawless. He is a human who was just as vulnerable as the rest of us. And it was really nice to see that at the end of the day, he is human too. I thought this was a wonderful episode that had me on the edge of my seat right until the last minute of the episode. So now I'm going to kind of walk through the events of the episode bit by bit. And just to be completely clear, there will be spoilers from this point forward for the rest of the video. So the episode starts and we're back on Tatooine. And I was instantly already annoyed. I don't understand why Star Wars has this obsession with always going back to Tatooine. Luke says in A New Hope, if there's a bright center of the universe, you're on the planet that it's farthest from. Yet it seems like in almost every single thing we have to go back to Tatooine. Anyway, even more annoying to me was the reintroduction to Amy Sedaris' character, who is the galaxy's most irritating mechanic. I really don't like this character at all, and I don't know why we have to keep coming back to her, but it seems like every season of The Mandalorian, and even the Book of Boba Fett, she has to pop back up again. Din tells her that he needs the new memory chip for IG-11 to get him back online. She tells him that's not really possible, that part would be impossible to find, and instead she offers up R5-D4. If you don't remember him, he is the droid that Luke originally bought in A New Hope. His motivator blew, and C-3PO suggested that he get R2-D2 instead, and the rest is history. We saw R5 briefly when he made a brief reunion with R2-D2 in the Book of Boba Fett, and now Din has him, which is actually a really cool connective tissue all the way back to the original film, and I like that quite a bit. Also, Din having R5 makes a lot more sense than him trying to get IG-11 back, which was one of my big complaints with last episode, so I really like this decision a lot better. And just as soon as we got to Tatooine, we're gone. They go off-world, on their way to Mandalore. And on the way, Din continues to teach Grogu the ways of the Mandalorians, which I really loved all that stuff. I ate that up. Those father-son moments, those were so cool. He was talking about knowing how to navigate and knowing where you've been so you never get lost. Talk about the importance of the planet and the surrounding moons and planets that he grew up on and that other Mandalorians were on. This serves a few key purposes because 1, it shows us this growing bond between Din and Grogu. 2, we see Grogu start to learn these things and apply them. And 3, it also keys the audience in on some of this important lore that you might not have known if you haven't watched Clone Wars and Rebels and the other books and stuff. So they get to the planet and they go through this storm. All of a sudden, there's Mandalore in all its glory. And by glory, I mean ruins. But that shot of them seeing Mandalore for the first time, that was an awe-inspiring shot. So they land on the planet and Din tells R5 to go scan the surface to see if it's breathable. R5 goes off. He gets off the radar. So Din grudgingly goes after him. I also like that R5 kind of has a personality and that personality is different than R2 because R5 is very timid and reluctant to go out and do things unless he is told to do them time and time again. Because Din was like, I'm not asking you, you're going. And he kind of went off not wanting to. And I like that they give him a distinct personality because R2 jumps into action. He has no fear. But R5, you can see he's been through some stuff too, and he is not as willing to go along with it. So I really like that. The cinematography in this episode is outstanding, by the way. Particularly when you see Din go into this cave when he's going after R5. He gets ambushed by these cave-dwelling creatures and uses the Darksaber and takes them all out. I also love how in this battle, you can see Din is still struggling to use the Darksaber. He is not used to this weapon, and he still needs to adapt to it, which, by the way, is a foreshadow to how we see another character handle the same weapon later on, but we'll get to that. They discover that the air is, in fact, breathable, and Din takes Grogu down to the mines so that he can get to the waters. By the way, these mines look perfect for the context and the era that they're in right now. The design is flawless. Din looks down and sees a Mandalorian helmet buried in the rubble, picks it up, and immediately is swallowed up by this mechanical creature. I love the design of this creature, by the way. This is like vintage George Lucas imagination. Din tells Grogu, go get Bo-Katan, and Grogu takes off. I love that we're now seeing Grogu start to evolve as a character. His time with Luke has changed him, and he is maturing before our eyes. He is not just a helpless little baby anymore. I mean, we still get those cute, oh, goo goo gaga moments, but we're also seeing him become an actual functioning member of this crew. He is more confident in his use of the Force, and he can effectively do the cool jump things that he does in and out of the cockpit. I loved all of that. He gets to Bo-Katan. She is very reluctant to go out and talk to Mando, but she decides, fine, and she goes out to yell at him, realizes that he's not even there and that he's in trouble, and she takes off to go rescue him. Once Grogu successfully gets her to where he is, she's able to find the Darksaber, which she knows how to use much better than Din does because she has a lot more experience with it. And she defeats the creature and Din is saved. Both before and after this action sequence, we get some really interesting backstory from Bo-Katan that if you haven't watched Clone Wars, you might not know a lot of it. And even if you had, it's a nice refresher. But we learn about how her family used to rule Mandalore and how it was her birthright to do so. The planet was destroyed by the Empire, and that Mandalorians used to fight side by side with the Jedi, etc. All of it was very fascinating. She agrees to take him down to the waters beneath the mines because he won't be able to find it himself. So they get there, and he, like the audience, is taken aback by the fact that he finally got there, and he is right there at the waters. And he goes in to bathe in the waters, and he starts to recite the Mandalorian Creed. Before he can finish, he is dragged underwater by another monster. Instantly, Bo-Katan runs in and jumps into the water to save him. She's able to find him and brings him to the surface, saving his life for the second time this episode, and the episode ends. So as I said at the beginning, I loved this episode so much. We get a lot of great character development here. We see that Din is human and vulnerable. We saw the evolution of Grogu, which is something I'm assuming we're going to continue to see. But to me, the standout character here was Bo-Katan. She really got to shine in this episode, and I really liked her character here. The visuals were fantastic. The story was great. Overall, just a really well done episode here. And I am now so looking forward to next week's episode, where I will again give my full thoughts the same way. Remember that everything I've said here is just my opinion, and I would love to see yours down in the comments. Thank you for taking the time to listen to me today, and I will catch you next time. Take care.